You're listening to the My Simplified Life podcast, and this is episode number 323. Welcome to the My Simplified Life podcast, a place where you will learn that your past and even your present don't define your future. Regardless of what stage of life you're in, I want you to feel inspired and encouraged to pursue your dreams, simplify your life, and start taking action. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac, author of How to Get On Podcasts, the podcast matchmaker, and CEO and founder of the MLG Collective. I'm excited to share the stories and life lessons of changemakers and authors with you while taking you on my own journey. This is My Simplified Life. Hey friends, welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Michelle Glogovac. Today, this one is for the parents. I have Andrew Weiner, who is a filmmaker and author, joining me. He is also the husband of Nora Dahlia, the author of Pickup. And we are talking about his graphic novel series for kids, Daddy and the Beanstalk and Frog Daddy, which I thoroughly enjoyed with my kids. You can also go check out my Catherine's review on the book, the latest one, which is out today, Frog Daddy. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Like I was telling you before we hit record, you are like a member of the family at this point.
Thank you so much.
Can you take a moment to introduce yourself to everyone, please?
Yes, my name is Andrew Weiner. I'm a author and a filmmaker and brought a copy of my book, The Frog Daddy, which is my latest book, which comes out June 10th.
Which will be today. So we're going to pretend that we're already there. So
Right.
congratulations. Happy Pub Day.
Thank you. Yeah, time flies.
It does. We're fast forwarding a couple months, but that's okay. Nobody needs to know. It's such a fun read because with my kids, we also read Daddy and the Beanstalk, and they're graphic novels. So of course we have to take time to pause for pictures
Yeah.
but the best part was that they're funny. So I could relate as an adult, but also they teach a really cute lesson in the end, I felt.
Yeah, I wrote them. I mean, they're children's books, but I also wrote them for the adults reading the book. I've been reading, my daughter's now 11, my son's 7. I still read to my daughter. She's a voracious reader, but I just love the experience of reading a good book with her. So right now we're reading Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings, the first book in that trilogy, and we read all of the Harry Potter books together. So I love that experience of reading a good book, but reading like a children's book that is really works well for a kid but not so much for an adult can be kind of a brutal experience. I'm not going to name particular books. There were like when my kids were little, there were certain books that they just grab and like basically smack me in the face with it, and I'd be like, God, like, all right, and I'll just like kind of skim it, and they're like, no, 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 and it's just like, so I really, but when you have a good book like that as an adult reading, and it could be a children's book, like, some of the Dr. Seuss books, like would like really, like I would love the experience of reading, even though they're really for children. So I really wanted to write a book with adults in mind, that so this book is for them as much as it is for a kid. And it really is, because it's the concept of these books it's me telling my daughter a bedtime story. So we're flashing back, and it's a story from when I was a kid. So we're flashing back to my childhood. So I also think in a weird way, it's a way of like the adult connecting to their own childhood and kind of sharing a little bit of that magic of storytelling with the child.
I love that. And I'm reading with my kids, obviously, but we're both reading. I have a book with each child right now that is kind of young adultish. Like it's
Mhm.
not Lord of the Rings, but I've been so amazed that even I'm enraptured by the books. Like these are actually really good,
Right.
and they're not so kid focused. They're telling lessons. They are applicable to today. So I'm finding myself enjoying them, and they're quicker reads. So
Yeah.
it's beneficial.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some books like also like my daughter at 11, she's like aging up. Like she really loves to read things that are, that could either be like like more like YA teenage driven content, or adult characters, and it just feels to her like important, and she really likes to experience that. We read The Princess Bride. We read it actually like a few years ago, and it's like the book is much darker than the movie. So, and I think with some of these movies, like the Harry Potter films, I wanted to read the books with her first, like, and
Hmm.
just anchor her in the literary world, and then go to the film. And then like the Princess Dark Bride was like so dark, and so I was like, and I was like, I was reading, but also like kind of like trying to like narrate, like read, and also read ahead and be like, oh gosh, like
Yeah.
let's see how we can just kind of like summarize this. And then, I remember saying at this one point, I'm like, and then, then he left, and he's like, well, what happened to what happened to the dad? I'm like, he's dead, and then like, well, how? And I'm like, all right, this is gonna be pretty, let's, I don't know. But anyway, but I still like love the experience of it. I don't mind if somebody's reading this book and tweaks a word or two and, makes it their own. They have liberty to do that.
When you're reading with her, are you reading aloud? Are you taking turns? Because for us, I'm saying you read on your own, I read on my own, and then every night we come together to do comprehension because it's
Right.
really helped us in the learning
Yeah.
department. But how are you doing that? Because we do also a bedtime book too. So
Right.
there's too many books going on in this house.
Both my kids read on their own quite a bit. So when I read with them, I just generally read the whole book. Except like with Lord of the Rings, and we read The Hobbit, there's a lot of points where you get to like, there'll be like page after page where they've broken into song. And I dread those pages. And I don't really like, I have like my daughter's pretty good. She's a good singer. She's a good performer. I'm not a good singer. And so sometimes I'll like sort of like sing talk it, or just give it some rhythm. Sometimes I'll sing it. It's all like just painful. And so occasionally I'll be like, you want to try it? And sometimes she'll like take the book and sing, but that she sort of admits it's like not the easiest thing to do, because you're reading text and then somehow apply a tune to it. And I can't really carry a tune that well anyway. So
I won't
um
ask you to sing. Not
yeah,
today. Maybe another time we'll have a couple
yeah,
drinks and then you can sing. You mentioned that you're also a filmmaker.
yeah.
So which came first?
The film side did, like, I mean, I really like basically like um I mean, growing up, the things I loved writing. That was probably like, in terms of the academic world, that was what I liked doing the most, specifically creative writing. And by the time I graduated college, though, I was like, I want to like make movies, without really understanding like how that was done or anything like that. So I worked in film for a very long time, and I sold a script to Paramount. I was going through the development process with that, and I had the idea to like start creating graphic novels, which I loved just reading, and I'd sort of like rediscovered them as an adult. I hadn't read um, a comic book or graphic novel in years. And then I actually found one when I was working at MGM, and I was like, oh, these are like, and it was handed to me as a potential piece of IP for film. And then there was another comic book series, Stray Bullets, that I read, and I was like, oh, like, this is friggin' awesome. And so then I was like, maybe like there's some way to incorporate this into my work. And so I did. So the first um, graphic novel I wrote, which was published in 2022, was with Alicia Keys. I wrote a book with her called Girl on Fire, which was like a super fun experience. It
We've
was
started reading that, and we came to the part where the brother gets held at knife point, and my
Mhm.
daughter goes, "Nope, we're not reading this. I got to stop, mom."
Right, fair. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like it depends on the kid. I don't know how old your daughter
she
is.
just turned 9.
Yeah, I would say it's like when you're at that age, or maybe 10. I think it works with an adult to like kind of discuss some of the scenes that are a little harder,
Yeah.
um, to process perhaps. Um, but
And
yeah, that
you
was
casually name dropped Alicia Keys. So how did that collaboration come about?
I met her then producing partner at a party, and I think maybe she'd seen a couple of the things I'd done, and anyway, we just like hit it off. She's super cool. This woman named Susan Lewis, and told her what I was working on. This idea I had of like also doing some graphic novels, and she thought we might do something together. Like that would be cool, like me and Alicia. So I've spent some time with Susan, like kicking around ideas to get a sense of like what Alicia might like. I don't think like Alicia's not someone that I would just go in and like let's get together and let's get together next week and the week after that, and then it's like come in like ready to go. And so I had like the initial idea that that Alicia really responded to, and then we worked, from the ground up, because it was still again, it was just like the seed of an idea, and then we developed it and wrote it together.
And it's a beautiful book.
Yeah, thank you. And during COVID, so it was all like it was like over Zoom. Mostly, like my meetings with her were done over Zoom, and the script getting sent back and forth over email.
And then I guess we have to tell everyone how we got together and met. It's because of your wife,
Yes.
Nora, who wrote
Yeah.
Pickup. And so you're just a whole author literary family. I love that. Your kids
Yeah.
must be so excited to have these author parents. I think it's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
I think it probably feels normal to them, um, you know, because that's just like what their parents do.
Yeah.
So
They don't
yeah.
realize what big of deals you actually are.
Well, I don't know about that, but like Nora's like her book, she's written these great books, but they're not for kids. Like
Right.
they're definitely like I would say like contemporary literature. Her most recent is romance. Like they're definitely for an older audience. So like her, like the kids know about the books and they're super proud of her and excited, and they kind of know what they're about, but they're not going to read them for 10, 15 more years or so.
They're not going to be at the school library for them to
No,
check out like
no.
yours.
So I mean, I think with Daddy and the Beanstalk, what was fun is because like my kids are the age demo is I've done readings because it's me telling Estella, my daughter, a bedtime story. So we've done readings at her school. We've done a couple of we've done a couple of virtual events as well, and she's like such a good actor. So it's really fun to read with her. Like she kind of carries me a little bit.
That's
Um,
adorable.
yeah.
So what is it like to create a graphic novel? What comes first? The story? Like how do you come up with the pictures and the graphics?
Yeah.
And how long does something like that take in comparison to, Nora writing her book is at least a year, and I know what that
Right.
publishing track looks like too. So what does this
Yeah.
look like?
So it's like the big difference is the artwork. The creating the artwork takes so much longer. Um, these books, this is like 96 pages. So it's not like incredibly long, but still, I'm just opening up a random page. There's 3 panels here, 4 panels here. So that's 7 illustrations on this 2-page spread. And first, it needs to be thumbnailed. So I'm not an illustrator. I write a manuscript, and what's a little bit different for, say, like Nora, who's writing a book, what she is writing is ultimately the finished book. It's the I don't like always using the word product when you're describing something like hers. That's an artistic endeavor or a literary endeavor, but um, when I'm writing the manuscript, this is not the finished product, and so I'm actually like writing it as a blueprint for the art team. I'm giving them instructions. So if I don't know if I open to the same page. So I'm going to first of all, like all of these balloons here. This is the dialogue is that is the one thing that this is what appears verbatim. But then if I'm describing the artwork, I would probably describe, who I would describe who's on panel, where they are in relation to each other, what their expressions are. If this is the first time we're seeing this location here, I'm describing the environment. I'm probably describing this magical aura around this magician, Ralph, the amazing Ralph Wiedemeyer. If I didn't call him amazing, he'd probably be mad at me. So I'm really describing in great detail what should be drawn. And with Girl on Fire, there was a lead artist, Brittany Williams, who drew pencils. Then it went to an inker. And we're also like, because this was going on like earlier in the pandemic, everyone was a little bit like boggy, as my son Levi would call people when they're just a little bit, not at their optimum. But I mean, just people were juggling things like family they were taking care of while they're trying to
Hmm.
work. So it would go Brittany Williams, incredible illustrator. She would do the pencils, then it would go to an inker, and then it would go to a colorist, and then it would go to a letterer. So there were four people doing the interior art, and then HarperCollins, who published that book, they have their own art designer and production team that's doing the non-art pages um, for the Frog Daddy, for Daddy and the Beanstalk. Bethany Crandall's the artist, and she does everything. So it really varies. So for her, she's given the book, and then she illustrates it. So this is the second book we've worked on. So what I tend to do is I do a lot more details on the panels in the beginning of the book, and then I loosen up the description later on. And that point, like, she should have a handle on it. And also, it's her book as well. So, I want to give her room to, put her imprint on the book and make it her own. And she's got the guidelines in the manuscript, but, also some room to, like, really get creative and do things she wants to do in terms of the artwork.
And what
So
happen what happens like creatively if you're thinking, that's really not what I'm envisioning in my head, and she has something else that
right.
she's come up with. How does that work in collaboration with each other?
Well, I mean, this happens with making a film too. You've got so many different people, and I've produced a lot of movies. I've written movies. I've even directed movies, and it is a collaborative process. So, one, if somebody does something different, just because it's different than what I envisioned, doesn't mean. I mean, it might be better for starters than what I thought of. In which case, awesome. It might be different. It might be worse. If I feel like it's empirically worse or it's empirically better, that's easy. If it's better, like, leave it alone and let that person continue. If it's worse, have that conversation. And sometimes if it's a manuscript, it can be as simple as, like, let's stick with, the manuscripts. If it's different, that's the tricky part, because then I try to think of, like, okay, like I said that the shirt should be red and it's blue. Um, I prefer it red, but does it actually make it better that it's red
Mhm.
versus blue? Maybe it doesn't. And if it's just an idiosyncratic personal preference, I might just let it go. And I may not know what is better, worse, or maybe they're the same. And if they're the same, if it's not actually important to me, just, leave it. You
Yeah.
know, give that person, whether it's a colorist, a, a inker, illustrator, just give them the room um, to do their own thing.
What do you find what are you enjoying more? Do you enjoy more the writing of the manuscript and creating these graphic novels, or is film more your thing? What's giving you more of that excitement when you're
Right.
doing it?
I mean, I love them both. I think these recent books are, like, very personal because I'm in the book, my daughter's in the book. It's a bit of a spoiler, but my wife's in the book as well. So and so it's super fun. It's really been and also with, like, I love making movies, but it's a really long process. And I also find like when you're prepping a film, you're just trying to get into pre-production. And once you're in pre-production, at some point, you're like, you just want to get into production. And then once you're in production, you just want to get out of production and into post-production. And then once you're in you just want the movie to be done. It's an exhausting experience. So, I mean, they're different. I honestly love both. Writing probably like a manuscript for like these books are like simple in a way. Like because at least for the writing process, I'm just writing it. Um, and I'm kind of like, I've given an outline or a treatment to my editor at Little Brown. These are published by Little Brown. Um, and she's super easy to work with. But once she's like, yeah, like, there's a nice chunk of time where I'm just writing, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's uncomplicated. And when you find an idea or joke or something like that, you just know, like, lands hard, like, it's just super fun, in terms of like from the writing perspective.
So do you have more up your sleeve that are coming?
I don't know yet. I mean, I have other stuff like we're working on. We're out with a book proposal right now. My agent took it out, and so I think he's expecting multiple offers this week. Or, well, it's June 10th, so hopefully, hopefully I'll be sold it already.
Yeah, hopefully you have a book deal and everything by
Yeah.
the time this
I
airs.
can't really get into it. And then I think for more in this series, I think like honestly, we'll have to see how this next book does. Like I hope it. I mean, I'd love to keep writing them, but it's also a business. So if you're watching, like buy this book.
Yeah, and it could
Yeah.
be turned into a cute little cartoon.
Yeah. So I have another agent who's like thinking about that. So we'll see how that goes.
Saturday mornings with Andrew
Yeah.
and Stella. I love it. That's fantastic. This is so much fun. My kids loved it when Nora did make her appearance, since you already said that she makes an appearance in the book. The
Yeah.
kids were like, "Wait, don't you know her too?" And I'm, "Oh, yes, I've interviewed Nora too." So it definitely, for at least our family, it brings it all together of like, "Oh, we know all these people that are in the book, and that's really
Yeah.
cool for them."
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh, it's
and they need
cool.
a good lesson, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Nora and I have I don't know what you'd call like our meet cute, but how we met. Like she's written about it for a couple publications and embellished it in a book of hers. Like, so we meet for the first time in this book. I've like fudged the dates because I think, we're like around 9 or 10 uh, when we meet. And then we don't see each other for a long time and we meet again as adults.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, her book is, I loved reading pickups. So
Yeah.
like, and you're not in it, but yet there is filming in it. And,
Yeah.
there's some other stuff. There's parts of you that are in it, but you're not like in it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, there's others where I'm like, that feels like, whether she says so or not, it's like that guy feels like me. Um, I think like, yeah, she's super creative. She'll say that she's not, but she is. Like, because when she says she's not, I mean, she's being tongue in cheek, but she'll pull some elements from her life and then completely fictionalize other aspects. She's writing pure fiction, but sometimes if there's a character that's, real a real life character that, it's an easy character and a fun character to write sometimes. And so, I mean, I've done that with this. I've written it's myself as a kid, which was pretty fun to write me as a kid. And then obviously creating, a lot of fictional characters. But then there's a character named Dave Hanala who is still a very close friend of mine. And he's in the book. So it's kind of like, sort of like trying to remember what it was like creating fictional characters and also like this fantastical world that is partially grounded on reality and then also like complete fantasy.
I love it. I love it. Both books have been so much fun to read, and we eventually will get through Girl on Fire.
Maybe another year or two.
But yeah, when things calm down and she's not going to call me up at night to say, do you remember that part?
Yeah.
uh,
Whoops.
where can everyone find you, Andrew, and find these adorable books?
The books, Daddy and the Beanstalk, the Frog Daddy should be findable in bookstores, and any big online retailer should be easy to find. Um, Myself, you can find me like occasionally running in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, online, on Instagram. What am I at? The Andrew Weiner, I think.
I'll
That's
post it in the show
Yeah.
notes.
It sounds very conceited saying it out loud. And there's like a lot of Andrew Wieners out there, and some good ones. I'm not saying I'm the best, but I'm the Andrew Weiner on Instagram. Yeah, so if someone out there is listening and wanted like a signed copy of the book, you can send me a note on Instagram and I'll respond.
I love
Um,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, perfect. Because kids love that, you guys. Everybody needs to understand what a big deal that is. I think that building a collection of autographed books is like the ultimate gift you can give your kids. So,
yeah,
yes, hit Andrew up for that, please. Thank
yeah,
you so much for joining me and for writing these adorable books that we've gotten to share as a family. And I just can't wait for everybody else to dive into them too.
yeah. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to do this with you. So I appreciate it.
Friends, you know that I am a big fan of reading, period. But reading with your kids can make such a difference. It's such a great way to bond with them. And if you can find books that are also enjoyable for you to be reading with them, then you've totally won the book lottery, in my opinion. So do yourself a favor, do your kids a favor, go out and find Frog Daddy and Daddy and the Beanstalk. Drop Andrew a line, get a signed copy, because how fantastic is that to get an autographed copy for your kids? I promise you they will treasure it. I treasure all of my autographed books, and that's a gift that I'm instilling in my kids as well. So read with your kids, use that time to really bond even more and to connect and to share your love of reading.